And we are live. Good morning. It's a wonderful Saturday morning. And we are having Saturday morning in the kitchen. And hello to all of you who are here with me this morning. I'm so excited. We're going to have a good time today. Now, I had Thanksgiving on my mind. And so I thought, I'm asking you to prep. I might as well do some prep as well. So that's what we're going to be doing today, getting ready for the holiday. So I'm doing some pre-cooking that's going to be going into my freezer. And once it's done, once it's in the freezer, then all I have to do is bring it out on Thanksgiving morning, let it thaw out a little bit, and put it into the oven. Now, so we've got several things that hopefully time will allow us to get done, because I like to mix it up and to give you a variety. So this morning we are starting with my mom's macaroni and cheese, which is absolutely delicious. I think you will enjoy it should you try it. And it really is easy to do, but it does involve a little bit of prep time. Now, what we're going to do, I just want you to see, I don't know how much of this you can see, but you can see that I have been grating cheese, and more cheese. And, I change up the cheese. Sometimes I like an extra sharp cheddar. I like Colby and Jack. Sometimes if I want a little hint of pepper, depends on who's eating it, I will throw in a little pepper jack. I like a little Gouda. And, macaroni and cheese really was devised to be able to put in the cheeses that you like, as well as if you had any little knobs of cheese that are sitting in your refrigerator, this is a good time to get rid of it and to put it into the mac and cheese. So that's what we're doing today. All right, so I'm starting here, and I'm going to turn this back on because I didn't want it to bubble away. So I have one stick of butter in my pot, one stick of butter, and I'm letting that, it is just about melted. It is just about melted. And I kind of have to keep this on the eye because otherwise it will cut off. But I have one stick of butter that's here. I'm going to add to this, as I cut up the heat, 4 cups of whole milk. This is not the time to cheat. This is not the time to go low fat or no fat or whatever. If you're going to have macaroni and cheese, have macaroni and cheese and eat moderately. That's my suggestion. Have the real thing and eat moderately, and don't skimp. If you're going to only have 3 bites of macaroni and cheese, you want those 3 bites to be the best bites that you've ever had in your life. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put together that kind of macaroni and cheese. Now, I am going to go back here. I had it in my hand and got to talking to the big guy and sat it down. But we're going to put in about a teaspoon of salt to start off. A teaspoon of salt. And I am using salted butter, just so you know. I'm using salted butter. But once you get the pasta in there, all the cheese is in there, it's not going to be too salty. So we have added an additional teaspoon of salt because we want it to have good flavor. That's really what it's all about, having good flavor. So I'm going to stir, and I'm going to bring it up. I want it to be hot, but I don't want it to stick to the bottom. You do not want that to happen. So this is coming to temperature. As soon as I see that our butter is just about finished being melted, then I know I'm ready to add in the cheese. So I'm going to put the cheese off to a side. At this point, I have shredded 2 pounds of cheese. Now, I may not need all of that in the cream sauce, but I like to put together a sauce, and it's a nice creamy sauce that we're going to let, I've already cooked the pasta. We're going to let the pasta kind of soak in while it's cooking, but we're also going to add, you notice I've got 2 plates. I've got 1 plate here, and I have the first plate. And the reason for that is because some of this is going to get sprinkled into the mixture, because it is so good when you bite into a mouthful of macaroni and cheese. You want the creaminess, you want the cheesiness, you want all of that in one bite. And so that's what we're going to put together today. So I've got the butter going here. I think I better give it. It is just about there. We're going to add some, I'm going to turn it up just a little bit so we really get this hot. My milk had been sitting pretty much at room temperature for a little while. I didn't want it to sit too terribly long. But we're going to start to add, by handfuls, a little bit of the cheese in. And we're going to do it little bit by little bit. And the reason for that is because as you add the cheese, it changes the temperature of your mixture. So we're going to give that a good stir. And once we see that that's starting to melt, and the reason for grating it, of course, you can put it in cubes, and it just takes longer for it to melt. And so we are going to give this the time that it needs in order to melt. So that's why I'm stirring, and I'm using a flat end. You can use a flat end wooden spoon, and this is a spurtle, the little spurtle, and I am taking that and just going back and forth because I want to make sure, number one, that none of that cheese sticks on the bottom, and number two, I just want to make sure that it is melting well. So these are cheeses that will melt very well. So we're going to give that a minute. And while we're waiting, I promised one of our viewers that I would put together my seasoning, my house seasoning. Now, guys, when you're first developing your house seasoning, there are just certain flavors and spices that you're looking for. And I'm using one of the, I like the Classico spaghetti sauce. And so I save those bottles because they have measurements on the side. It's a great bottle. I've probably got 4 of these. I probably keep 4 empty ones all the time. But it gives me my perfect measurements for what I need. So I use this almost always for my seasoning. Now, I'm going to start, and I'm using a little, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm keeping this in here. I can't think of it at the minute, but we'll get there in a minute. So I have about 3/4 of a cup of black pepper. That's where I'm going to start. And if your family's not a big black pepper family, then you know what to do. Cut back on the black pepper. But let me tell you about this. This seasoning mix, the basic seasoning mix, is one of those things that, I'll be honest with you, if I know I'm going to travel somewhere, that I'm going to cook, this is what goes with me, because I don't know what other cooks have in their kitchen. And I know this works. So that's why I travel with it. I also have 3/4 of a cup of, this is onion powder. So I'm going to put that in. I'm also going to measure out 3/4 of garlic. All right, got my garlic, and this is granulated garlic that I'm using, about 3/4. And I am not a huge salt fan, but I do like a little salt. So you know what? I left the salt over there. So let me go get that salt and have it ready. Salt, salt, salt. Okay, we got the salt. Give it a little shake because you know salt has that tendency to clump. So to try to keep it well balanced, and this is probably where you will want to start. Now, if you're salt sensitive, use less salt. But if you're pretty healthy and salt isn't really an issue for you, then you're going to want to add 3/4 of a cup of salt. I'm going to put in just a little bit less because we are trying to watch our salt. Now, hey, we got everything in there. I'm going to put the top on it. Let you see those layers. See if I can bring it around. You can see how pretty it turns out. And with the salt at the top. Now, I use pink Himalayan salt because that just happens to be, at this point, my salt of choice. But, you know, it's not the salt you have to use. But that is what I'm using right now until I use it all up. I've been looking at this product that's called Real Salt. And I haven't used that before, but I've heard good things about it. Now, so the cheese that we put in there first has melted. And because I was talking, I got a little bit going here. All right, so we're going to start to add more cheese. I'm going to put in about half of this. Like I said, we have to watch it because cheese will stick. All right, so I put all of that in. Now I'm going to give all of that a really good stir, and I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Because while I want it to melt, what I don't want it to do is what I just saw. I had a little bit of a scrape right there. Whoop. And I don't want that in my macaroni and cheese. So if you have any that stays just a little bit too long on the bottom, just kind of fish those little pieces out because sometimes it happens. And especially if you're talking. Which you know I like to do. All right, so we've got our cheese going here. Let's see, one more little piece that needs to come out. I'll let him sit just a little bit too long. Okay, now, so our cheese is in there, and that's going to be just nice and creamy. We have our salt, we have our cheese. Now, actually, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. I want it a little creamier than that. So I'm going to add just a handful of what I have here. Maybe 2. I had plenty of cheese, so that wasn't an issue. Now, actually, years ago, about 15 years ago, I prepared this macaroni and cheese for a group with Philip Morris. And when they put together their Philip Morris cookbook, my macaroni and cheese was in there. And it was so nice. I got lots of compliments and lots of credit. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna focus now, make sure that I'm staying right here. I hope you guys are having a good time because this is just going to be a great, great, great time. And I'm glad you are here. You know, a lot of people make macaroni and cheese differently. And some people, it's funny, my pastor, when we prepare macaroni and cheese, he doesn't eat it. And it's not that he doesn't like macaroni and cheese, but he grew up with the box stuff. And that's because his mom worked, and that's understandable. but that's the macaroni and cheese that he grew up with. So he really does not like the homemade macaroni and cheese. And it's so funny. We give him a hard time all the time because he will not eat. He won't even let it pass his mouth to eat a homemade macaroni and cheese. Now, I'm going to put in about a couple of teaspoons of flour. And the reason for that is that it's just going to give that cheese sauce a nice consistency. So here's one. I'll sprinkle in. And two. All right. And let me get the whisk. Hopefully it's here close. And I'm going to whisk our sauce. Now, this is the way that you start. If you're going to make like a cheese sauce for your baked potatoes, this is how you start that sauce. And you just continue to add the amount of cheese that you want until you get it as cheesy as you like. For those of you who like to fix things for football, then you can throw in some salsa and have more of a queso sauce. But this is how all of that gets started. So we've got a nice, pretty sauce that's going here. And I'm going to turn the power down because I do not want it to stick. I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes. Now, what I am going to do, I'm going to use this, and we are going to temper our eggs. We're going to add eggs into it. Temper our eggs. I'm taking just a little bit out for that. So I've got just about a half a cup. That's pretty hot. And I'm going to put my top on my salt because I'm not going to need that at this point. I'm going to sit that over there. And I have about 4 eggs that I'm going to crack. And we're going to beat those up just a little bit. Now, you guys are doing a lot of talking. I'll have to come back and check that out. But we're doing serious cooking this morning. So, when you're in the kitchen and you got serious cooking going on, you just don't have time to talk at that second. And our cameras are at a distance, so unfortunately, I can't see everything. Even with my glasses on, I wouldn't be able to see everything that you're saying. So let me rinse my hands. I'm going to give our counter a little wipe just in case. We want to keep things clean. I get a fork, and we're going to start to beat. So we're beating our eggs up nice. And for those of you who may not be egg beaters by hand, hold that fork in your hand, whether you're left or right, doesn't matter. Put a couple fingers on it, and you're taking your fork back and forth, the bottom of your fork, back and forth, and you're whipping it. So we're going to whip these eggs. It's a little noisy, but it gets the job done. Okay, I hope we're back. I don't know what happened. Something happened, but it took us out for just a few minutes, but we're back. All right, hello, hello. I hope I haven't lost you. All right, we got our eggs are going here. I didn't leave you. I didn't leave anything out. And I'm going to stream a little more milk in. There we go. Give it a good whisk. And what's happening is that these eggs are getting very thick and they're coming up to temperature so that I can add them into our sauce, our cream sauce. So I think we can go ahead and put the rest of this in at this point, and it won't cook our eggs. Our eggs are going to be good. You put that over there in the sink. All right. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened with the internet, but I don't know if we've got something major going on or whether it's StreamYard. So either way, we're back. Okay, our eggs are ready. Got the whisk. We're going to start to whisk this in. We're going to do the same thing. Hold it high. Put a little bit in at a time, and my heat's off completely. Now, if you're doing that cream sauce, that cheese sauce I was telling you about for potatoes or for chips, then you're not going to put the eggs in. The eggs are strictly for your mac and cheese, and it is going to thicken that sauce and actually make it very, very rich. So we're adding that in. Adding our eggs in. We just have to take our time. This is one of those things. That's why I'm always telling you, prep in advance, because you want to be able to have a really delicious dish. And let's face it, on Thanksgiving, you want to have fun too. So we got our eggs whipped in. All right. That's perfect. Like I said, for those of you who may be just coming in, the heat is off the cream sauce. I did that before I put the eggs in. Now over here, I've got my cooked pasta, and I'm going to put in most of it. This was a pound of pasta that I cooked. Well, I guess he said he's all going in. Everybody's going. So I'm going to take my little spoon here and just kind of break him up. Okay, now I'm going to take this pot and pour this sauce over the mac. Now, I didn't pour all of it. I left a little bit in there. And the reason for that is because I want to see where it is. Now, this macaroni, you know, pasta is going to soak up. It's going to soak up lots of liquid. So you want it just a little bit soupy. When you put it in, a little soupy. So that later we can, you know, if you won't have to add additional milk or anything like that to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually add the rest of this. Okay. So our pasta's in. And if we weren't trying to do this in a short time period, I would probably just sit this off to the side and let that pasta soak. And, you know, cook your pasta al dente, because what's going to happen is that it's going to cook again when it's in the oven. You're going to cook this on 400 degrees, and it's probably going to take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And of course, some of that depends on your oven. So I would say at about 40 minutes, start giving it a look to see if it's nice and done. If you see that it's starting to brown too fast, then you're going to cover it. Now, remember that extra cheese? I'm going to pour all of that in. And I could actually add even more at this point, but I'm just going to, because I know my sauce is good. And you know, that looks good, but I think I'm gonna go get a little more cheese. All right, we got more cheese, and we are going to open this up. And what I'm going to do at this point, rather than stand and grate, we're going to cube it just a little bit. Now, this is a 2-pound block. What did I do with my big knife? I know I had it. Lost my knife, but that's okay. I'll bring, there he is. All right, there he is. We got it. So we're going to put in some small cubes. And what that will do is that it's going to make this just even cheesier. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make first little fingers of cheese. So I'm going to move this over out of the way. And I'm going to slice this into like little 1/4 of an inch cubes. And it's going to break up because it's been sitting in the refrigerator and it's cold, and that's okay because you want it to do that. The smaller the better, but you'll notice this happened very quickly. It actually almost quicker than trying to grate it, but I'm going to add that into the mixture. I'm going to give it a stir because I want to see it's got butter, it's got the milk, whole milk, not the other stuff, not for Thanksgiving. And I'm going to add just a little bit more cheese. All right. All right, the cheese is ready to go. So we're putting in even more cheese. I'm pulling back so you're here and can see. There we go. Were you guys able to get back in, Ronnie? I think you were able to get back in. That's good. I don't know what was going on with StreamYard this morning because my internet was on. I didn't have an issue with that. I usually get an indicator when mine is not working, so I know it wasn't me. Okay, this is our mixture. Now, what we're going to do is that I took out the aluminum pans because remember I told you, aluminum pans, you will want to cook your mac and cheese in an aluminum pan so that you can sit it in one of your dishes. And so we are going to spray this down well. All right, got that spray. And I'm going to get a cup because I don't want to make a mess. And I'm going to put this into our pan because we may actually need 2 pans. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just don't want to overfill because what you don't want is to have to clean your oven up. And I keep an oven liner in the oven, because at least I can take that out and, you know, clean it up, rinse it good, and we're good to go. So I'm going to leave at least a ½ inch at the top, maybe even an inch. So that's one. And see, I got enough for another pan. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take that is left, and I'm going to show you what it is. I have about a quarter of this bowl that I am going to put into a Ziploc bag. And one of those Sundays when the big guy and I want some macaroni and cheese, I can take this out, put it into a dish, bake it, and it's ready to go. But we have our pan all ready for the holiday. So this is ready. I'm going to sit it over here and let it cool. And then I'll wrap it and put it into the freezer. Let me get my Ziploc bag. There we go. Now, all right, I'm going to take this. And I'm actually going to do this over the sink, guys, because you know what will probably happen. Something will spill. And who wants to clean up macaroni and cheese off your kitchen floor? You don't. At least this way, if it spills, it goes into the sink. Okay. So there we go. So I have enough for the big guy and I to have macaroni and cheese on a Sunday. So I'm just going to lay it down, flatten it out, get the air out, and give it a good wipe. Good wipe down. This is our pan. We're going to let cool. Going to clean this bag up so when everything goes out to the freezer, this is ready. So there's our bag, our mac and cheese. So we've got mac and cheese for the holiday. We've got mac and cheese. Now, of course, if you have a huge bunch coming, then you are going to want to probably fix double this amount. And usually, I probably do it about 2 or 3 times just to make sure I have about 3 pans of macaroni and cheese, because those are the things that everybody wants, and those are the things that they want to take home. You know, I told you about asking everyone to bring a to-go container so that you can share some of your leftovers. So we've got all that done. So here's our mac and cheese for another day and our mac and cheese for the holiday. All right, now we're going to go over to the stove, and we also put together our basic house seasoning this morning, if you were able to catch that. So we're going to go over to the stove, and my plan is for us to go over there. Oh, I put Velveeta in mine sometimes too. And I do I like Velveeta just to eat it. But, you know, everybody doesn't like that. So I'm going to bring you down and get us going here. Now, I'm also prepping today for dressing, getting some things going for dressing. So let's get here where you can see. And I've got a skillet here. Remember, we prepped vegetables not too long ago. We took care of the celery and the and the onion. Remember we did that? Well, I pulled those out of the freezer. I've got a half stick of butter here that I'm going to melt, and we're going to start getting our dressing together. And so also yesterday, I fixed a pan full of cornbread so that we can get this cornbread going. Now, I'm going to need that bowl that we had for the macaroni and cheese. So real quick, I'm going to get that washed up. I'm not going to wash all the dishes because y'all don't want to see that. But I am going to get that bowl ready that it was in. So let's just take our time. You know, this is our Saturday morning. This is what we do. So there's our bowl, because we're going to need that. I'm going to break that cornbread up into that bowl. All right. We're back. Ready to go. Our butter is melting, and I have about a cup and a half of onion, and I also have a cup and a half of celery, because both of those I want in the dressing. Now, I'm not going to make sausage dressing because the family that I'm taking this to is going to be able to, they've got something going on with sausage. So anyway, we're not putting sausage into the dressing. But if I were doing it at home, then I would cook some Italian dressing and just throw it in. And so it's very easy to do. So we're going to, I'm in the process of getting this cornbread out of the container. Got to flip it in. I let it sit. That was the mistake. So I'm going to have to run my knife around. I don't know if you can see, I'm running my knife around. And we're going to get this cornbread out. And I let it sit out last night because I wanted it to be pretty stale. And you can see it doesn't want to come out at all. But that's okay. There he goes. There he goes. I had to be patient. Patient. All right. So I'm going to start with about half of this. We'll get all of that in. And I also have a bag of herb seasoning. Okay, our butter is ready. So let me get you around. The butter's ready. So we're going to put in our onions. All those onions are going in. Woo! Boy, smell those onions. We'll coat it. Okay, and I'm going to put in about the same amount of celery. So there's our celery. So all of that's going to cook. And I can tell you this, when you're going to freeze your celery, you'll want to put a little water on it. And that may help a little bit with it discoloring, but it doesn't change the taste, even though it may be just a little bit darker than what you're used to. All right. So we've got our butter, we've got our onion and celery going there, and we need some seasoning. Let me get a spoon. Now I want a little garlic, so I'm going to use my granulated garlic. I will start with a teaspoon. You start light, and then you can always go back and add more seasoning. You can always go back. I'm putting in about a teaspoon of pepper. And like I said, you know your taste better than anyone. All right, so there we go. You get my wooden spoon. And this wooden spoon has that flat end on it so that we can go through and just kind of move things around. Make sure that it's not sticking. There we go. All right, we're going to let this come to a bubble. Now, I also have some broth that we're going to be using as well. Now, I'm going to try, oh, okay. Michelle, thank you. You know, Michelle, I think, and Tiffany, I think if you got the news, I don't know if I put the recipe in there for the Thanksgiving. I might have put the recipe for the macaroni and cheese in the newsletter, the one that had the Thanksgiving recipes. If you didn't get that, let me know. And I'll make sure I resend that so you'll have it. And that way you'll have all the recipes. You'll have all the Thanksgiving recipes just right there in your inbox. So just shoot me an email and I'll resend that so that you'll have everything you need. Now, what's going to happen here? We need a little bit of salt. And I'm only going to put in about a half teaspoon at this point of salt because, you know, I use salted butter, so I don't want to over salt. And you never know with your broth sometimes as to, you know, how salty it may make your dish. So we want to keep that fairly light. So we're going to let that boil. I'm going to get our broth and I'm going to continue to break up our cornbread. So I'm just taking it and kind of crumbling it up, and not too crumbled, but we want it crumbled. Now, I like Pepperidge Farm to go with my cornbread dressing, but the grocery that I was at didn't have Pepperidge Farm. So I'm having to use a brand that's called Chef's Cupboard. And so I'm going to, I think it's an Aldi brand, and it is an herb seasoning. It's got the savory seasonings of your dressing. So you can smell the sage, you can smell the poultry, kind of poultry seasoning in there. And I'm going to take that piece of cornbread that I put in, I'm going to start to add. Now I'm going to put this whole bag in. This entire bag is going to go in because it's cornbread and we're mixing it with our cornbread. And right now things are pretty dry, but they're not going to be long. Now we're going to need an egg because we want it to stay together. And I'm just kind of breaking up the cornbread a little bit with my fingers. Now, let me go get some broth. Now I have about 4 cups of broth that I have here, and I've got our mixture here. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add just a little bit more of our cornbread, what we made. And you know, guys, you don't have to be a from scratch kind of person. Go get you some Jiffy cornbread mix, make it, get a couple of boxes, and make that cornbread. Save yourself. Jiffy has worked every Christmas and Thanksgiving. And, you know, we put it, we use it. I make fresh cornbread if we're just going to eat it. But, you know, if you're going to put it in your dressing, you might as well save yourself a little bit. Okay, so we've got a nice bowl here. Now I'm going to add in our mixture, all of our seasonings, our onions, our celery, all of that's going in. Our sink is starting to pile up, but that's okay. Let me see if I can get you at a better angle and bring you down. You don't have to see me. You can see what I'm doing. There we go. Now we got all of that in. And I'm just working that around. Always go from the bottom up, down to the bottom, scoop it up. Now, when you're doing this in advance, you're probably going to have to use chicken stock rather than turkey stock, unless you want to buy some turkey legs and make stock. You can certainly do that. I don't usually, and nobody knows or pays attention to whether it's turkey stock or chicken stock. Now I'm going to start to add. I'm going to put about half of this in. There we go. And then we'll start to work it around. Now remember, we had about 4 cups of dressing of the broth. That's gonna make it nice and moist. And we're gonna need 1 egg. And the purpose of the egg is to hold your dressing together, because you want it to, I like to put mine into the pan in little round mounds so that they are ready for someone to just scoop up a mound and put it on their plate. So we need an egg. Okay. So I'm going to take the last of this broth, because we are going to need this, and I'm going to put in 1 egg. I'm going to give it a good whisk. All right. Now, we're going to take the last of our broth and the egg together. Okay. Now we're going to mix. You're going to want to go around this bowl several times, but you can see how it's going to start to come together. I hope all of you have signed up for the newsletter, because I tried to send you things that I thought would be helpful. And I certainly hope it is. I've got one that is in the queue, ready to go this week, that I think you'll be ready for. Now, I want you to notice what's happening. You know you have enough when you're, and I'm going to, let me do this just so you know I did. I'm going to get my hands good clean. Because what I'm going to do is that have another aluminum pan. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to spray it down. And you definitely want to make sure that this is well sprayed. Okay, now I'm going to take a scoop, and when I hold it, watch what happens. You have a nice little ball of dressing, and we're going to put that in our pan just like that. And that's really almost a serving. Or you could even, if you wanted them smaller, you could use your ice cream scoop, make a little smaller ball. Just kind of put them together. But it's moist enough that we can do that, and they will hold. And we're going to continue to do that until we have this pan full. And everyone will have a scoop, a serving of the dressing. And obviously, if you have a big family, huge family, and they're all dressing eaters, then, you know, you're probably going to have to do this one more time because it can go pretty fast. And once they find out that it really does taste good and they have added some of that turkey gravy over it, honey, they are going to come back even when it's cold. They'll come back and get some dressing and gravy later on in the evening. And we're adding but this looks very pretty in your pan when it bakes. Now, because I'm going to put this in the freezer, I can tell you I'm going to probably, just before it goes into the pan, drizzle about a half cup of broth over it. About a half cup. And that's going to keep it nice and moist so that it won't dry out. Now, if you like mushrooms, you could certainly grate some mushrooms into your dressing and make it more of a mushroom dressing. And like I said, you know, we can do Italian sausage, which is delicious in your dressing. I could even take turkey pieces and cut it up into the dressing if you like that, or giblets. Some people like giblets, but you know, the younger crew's not so much into the giblets. And it's funny. It's funny. When I do it, I cut them so small. I chop them so small that they don't even know they're there. And they just eat and keep going. And that's half the battle. So there we go. We're almost there. You'll notice now this batch pretty much fills up your 9x13 pan. And you're going to have about a dozen and a half. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 16. A little more than that. Make sure I have all of them about the same. And there we go. You know, they don't all have to be perfect in size, but you do want them fairly even. All right. Now we had just a little bit left, and I can certainly throw that into a pan just to kind of cook it up for myself. But this is our pan that is going to get wrapped well. I'm going to put a layer of plastic over it first, cling wrap first, and then wrap it a couple of times with foil. And then that way I can put it into the oven. And you know what? I may leave the cling wrap out or put the cling wrap on top. And let me wash my hands so we can talk about that. Only because I'm cleaning that up. That's what I said. Because I'm cleaning that up just a little bit because I don't want our young cooks, I don't want our young cooks to forget that the cling wrap is in there and just put it automatically into the oven. So I'm going to say foil it, and then you might want to put some cling wrap around it just for safety's sake, or you don't have to. You can just do all foil, but certainly make sure that you have at least 2 good layers of foil around this. Now, if you didn't want to put it into the pans this early, you can certainly do the same thing we did with the macaroni and cheese. You can put it into a Ziploc bag, and then that way, the day before Thanksgiving, you can take it out, thaw it, and it's ready to put into the pans the morning of Thanksgiving. And then you bake it then, because I'm not going to bake this until Thanksgiving Day. So let me see. Okay, Michelle says she has the newsletter. It's not a Kentucky Jamaican cake. It's a Kentucky jam cake. It's a Kentucky jam cake. And did I say Jamaican in there? I think it's a jam cake, and that's in there. But if not, I'll go back and correct that. But my spell check may have jumped on that. But I think it's jam cake. What did Tricia say? Do I defrost the day of cooking, or do I cook from frozen? I usually defrost it. I'll take them out, the night before or the evening before, when you're just kind of you're trying to put the turkey together, do all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and take them out. Put them in the refrigerator if you have room. Now, if you don't have room, then certainly you can put it directly into your oven. But I usually let it thaw a little bit, only because it won't take so long for it to cook. Because if you put it straight from that freezer, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. And you may not want to tie up your oven that long. Now, I cook my turkey during the night so that when I get up Thanksgiving morning, my turkey is done. And even if that means going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've already picked up my turkey. If you guys are near Aldi's had a super price on their turkeys yesterday. So I picked up turkeys yesterday, and they're out there in the freezer ready to go. So you're going to want to, like I said, you're going to want to thaw them first because they won't take as long. Let's see. Okay, I answered your question. Cool. Okay, Ronnie, thank you. I thought it said, but you know what? It's kind of like, sometimes it's kind of like typing when you're texting, and the spell check changes whatever it is that you said. And so occasionally my computer will do the same thing. Yes. I do have house seasoning out there, but I also put and the one that I did originally has more stuff. But everybody, my daughter reminded, she said, "Mom, Keep it basic, because then they can add those additional spices in that they might like. And that is certainly the case. You can do that. So I am just thrilled that we have been able, we got our dressing prepared, and we got our mac and cheese prepared. Oh my goodness. Our macaroni and cheese is over here. Let's see if I can get you over here and the sun won't take us out. But we've got our mac and cheese here that is ready to go. And I'm feeling it. It is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get it wrapped. I'm going to wrap it up the way I told you, where I'm going to put it in a couple layers of foil. I use heavy duty aluminum foil. And you can even put in, yes, Sue, I will do that. I will definitely do that. You could even cover this with wax paper. And, you know, if you forgot and put it straight in the oven, the wax paper is not going to be that big of a deal. So, you know, that's what we're going to do. But we've got mac and cheese, check, and dressing, check. Those two things are ready to go into the freezer and all ready for our holiday. You know, guys, this has been so much fun. And I can't apologize for StreamYard, because I know my internet was fine. So, you know, occasionally there's a glitch with StreamYard. So anyway, we've got a wonderful start to the holiday. I've got some things I'm going to be sending those of you who receive the newsletter that I know you're going to want. And if there's something that you need or would like to have, like Sue's already said, she would like to have the recipe for the house season. And so I will, sorry guys, I will take care of that. And that will be in the newsletter this week so that you'll have it. So without further ado, we have been here for over an hour, and I certainly appreciate your time and your energy and your love. And I am so thankful for the sweet notes that I get along the way. So God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and have a blessed week next week, because we've got a lot to do between now and Turkey Day. So have a good time, and I'll see you soon right here in the kitchen of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme. Oh, I see. Deb says she's having a family dinner tomorrow. Oh, good, good. That'll be great. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I'm so glad you had a good time. This has been fun for me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.